It's time to gauge pressure. Third-year players heading into pivotal seasons for their NFL careers. Why is Rashod Bateman on this list? We'll discuss it next on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find me on Twitter at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout with the Draft Network and your favorite and local running back guru. And as I always tell y'all, man, the champ is here. My guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find him on Twitter at The Talent Code. Keith, talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, senior draft analyst with the Draft Network. Man, and what 2019 national champ, the best to ever do it, LSU Tigers, man. But you know why we're here, man? We're here to bring championship level content surrounding the draft, right? Whether that's prospects, whether that's roster management, whether that's depth chart analysis, right? But you know what we're doing, DP? We taking it back, man. We taking it back one time, a little flashback to the past, to the 2021 draft. And we had such a good conversation about the quarterbacks on the hot seat, right? We decided to share the love, right? Share the wealth and talk about some of these other players at other positions that are on the hot seat, whether that be Rashod Bateman, right? Because he's not the wide receiver one anymore in Baltimore. Or we have Odafe Oweh. I had to get that right, man, with the Ravens also, and Caleb Farley with the Tennessee Titans. But DP, man, before we get started, let's kick it off with one of our title sponsors.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL. And when you enter promo code LockedOnNFL, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Rashod Bateman must fly high this year, Keith. And the big thing for him was, I think he was healthy up until, I think, week 4 of the 2022 season. And I'll say this, Keith, guys, when he was healthy, Lamar Jackson was rolling. This offense looked good. I remember the Miami Dolphins game. He took the diamond cut slant for, I think, 60, 70 yards for a touchdown. And it was the fact that Miami the year before ran cover zero. Lamar Jackson came into that game and said, well, listen, we didn't have any counters to that cover zero last year. Or we got counters this time. And they countered them. And Rashod Bateman was a big part of that. He was wide receiver one, and when he was healthy, him and Lamar Jackson trust this young man to win on the outside. But that's the problem, guys. He has not been healthy, and that even goes back to his time in college. I think his final year was cut short, or so like towards the end of his career in college.
He might have not played the last year or something like. You know what?
Something
I think
like
he opted out. He did the COVID opt out, and he didn't play. What was that? I'm pretty sure it was something. I'm pretty sure he didn't play the last year. I want to say that. I could be wrong.
I'm checking it now just to make sure, but I think you're right, Keith. I'm pretty sure he didn't play. You know what I mean? Because like I said, he did deal with some injuries while he was in college, and you know he played the 2020 season. He only had like 472 yards, receiving in that year. So like he's just dealt with some injuries. Yeah, he only played 1, 2, 3, 4. He played like 5 games that year, and most of those on the back end of the season of the season from like week 8 on down. So when you look at what he was able to do last year, right? Week 1, 2 catches, touchdown, 59 yards receiving. Week 2, that was the Miami game, 108 yards receiving, 4 receptions, and a touchdown. Week 3 against the Patriots, 2 receptions, 59 yards. He in the first 3 games, guys, 29.5, 27, and 29.5. That's how many yards he averaged per reception. So he was creating big, explosive plays for Lamar Jackson in this offense. But man, if he's got to stay healthy. Now, some people may, if it's for fantasy, Keith, and guys, people are going to look at it as a negative, what I'm about to say. But I ain't talking fantasy. I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens offense. He has Odell Beckham and Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson healthy, a healthier backfield now, another year with this offensive line. He can go out there and ball and not have to face double coverages and face even probably sometimes even the best cornerbacks.
I feel you on that, and I'm gonna take the other angle of him having multiple people there with Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. Is that yeah, you have no option but to show up. You might want to show up, right? Because it's one of those points of leverage, right? In 2021 and 2022, 2020 when he was there, it's like, man, if we really had Rashod Bateman, right? But now, Todd Monken, the wide receiver coach, right? Like they're looking at him like we might not need you, big dog. Oh, you injured? Okay, yeah, your hamstring pulled, huh? Like that's what they're gonna say. Oh, your hamstring hurt. Don't worry about it. Odell, come here. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're gonna do. Isaiah Likely, come here. Let me talk to you, man. I want you to run this route. So he has to, because the next step is it goes from to, man, we drafted and you were very optimistic about the future, to go to saying, and I'm only saying this because I sat in the meeting room sometimes, right? And they said that we don't need you, right? Like there's a point of leverage, and that's any relationship, right? Whether it's football, it can be sports, it can be anything. There's a point of leverage, right? To where that thing can shift, and it is now shifting. So Rashod Bateman has no option, DP, but to show up. And the biggest thing is stay healthy, because we still don't even know what Rashod Bateman is, right? Because at Minnesota, when he came out, I thought there was a variance on if he was a number 2, a number 1, you know what I'm saying? Kind of somewhere in there. And up until this point, I think that he's flashed, but it's been a flash of explosive plays, right? Now it's the question is this: are you a number 1 wide receiver? Are you a guy that's going to catch the ball 8, 9, 10 times a game consistently? Or are you just a guy that we should dial up chunk plays to 3, 4, 5 times a game and allow it to be there? So there's so many elements, DP, of Rashod Bateman having to flush out who he is within his Baltimore system.
No, 100%. I think, even back to my point about, with him having the, how we talk about the weapons, it might also even help him stay healthy a little bit, Keith, because now you can lessen how much he is on the field with the variety of weapons you have in the personnel packages.
Yeah, and the coach is going to say, you wasn't on the field from the beginning. That's what they're going to say, like, man, we're trying to help you. And listen, we don't like getting on players, right? So this is not one of those, but we're having a conversation. I'm only giving you insight until what I know the surface level in-depth questions are, right? Like, okay, well, when you're on the field, like we need you to play, right? And I'm more than sure Baltimore Ravens fans feel like that. And obviously, Rashod Bateman, I want him to be healthy 100%. Play, dominate, do his thing, get the most money he can. But there is going to be a conversation of, are you just an injury-prone football player? And I believe, man, I hate to extend it, like put this in a sinus quote, but I think it was Louis Riddick. And he talked about injury-prone players, right? And he was like, listen, if you tear like if it's some type of shoulder injury or something like that, like, like a clavicle gets popped out of place or something like that, or, if it's a broken bone, like we don't consider those guys injury prone players. We consider injury prone players those guys who always have hamstring injuries, right? Who have those, detailed foot injuries that, like Liz Frank injuries that consistently pop up. He said, because that's the guys that it's always the same thing and it's nothing major. So I'm leaning towards, are you taking care of yourself, right? And that's that's what I think that was Louis Riddick that said that, somebody correct me if I was wrong. And that's kind of a different twist on the whole injury prone versus injuries happen in the NFL. DP.
But it's good information though, Keith, like, because it can get misconstrued a lot to, we hear that label thrown on players all the time, but it's like, man, he fell wrong and he broke his shoulder. Like, that's not a normal injury compared to
contact sport, right? Like a 300-pound guy fell on him and broke his shoulder. That almost sounds about right. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's usually what's supposed to happen. If somebody
on par for the course, it's not like he's walking in his kitchen and slips and there goes his hamstring again. Like, no, that's not the case. But I think it's just overall, like, you look at the situation. And it's like, man, he has the opportunity to come out here and ball. He was a 27th, I believe he was a 27th draft pick in the first round. He was picked 27. It's time for him to stay healthy, show up and show out, man, because this offense is finally filled with weapons where they can really like take over and allow Lamar Jackson to showcase that progression that he's shown in flashes when healthy over the last 2 seasons as a passer, man.
Yeah, and to wrap up that point, right? The draft class, I believe, or some combination of the last couple draft classes. You talking about Jamar Chase, you talking about T. Higgins, you talking about Justin Jefferson. So many talented players that were drafted in the first 2 rounds, combined with those two draft classes, if not just that one draft class. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's definitely gonna be an interesting conversation around Rashod Bateman. I'm excited to see him watch him ball out. Hopefully, he stays healthy, he's able to get on the field, and man, earn that next paycheck at the end of the day. Because Lamar's, he's gonna want you to make some plays for him. But DP, man, we about to transition, right? Transition into this next segment. And all we're going to do is switch the sides of the football. We're staying with the Baltimore Ravens, man. We're just flipping to the other side of the football. We're going to talk about, I'm about to get this name right, Odafe Oweh. I feel like I got that right, baby. That
You
one
nailed
wasn't
it,
that
bro.
long. I was able to pronounce that. You know what I'm saying? I'm working on the phonics, baby. Odafe Oweh, edge rusher from Baltimore, who we know Baltimore, they like to draft their edge rusher. So coming up next, we're going to talk about him and what he needs to do to have a big year in that pressure cooker.
Finding pants and or shorts that fit comfortably, they're flexible, versatile, man, it's not easy. And I can tell you that from personal experience. But let me use my personal experience to teach you about bird dogs. They make me look good, so they're going to make you look good. Fellas, listen to me. The khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and the leg, give you a truly sculpted look after all that work in the gym on leg day. And I can tell you they fit better than the regular shorts that I have currently in my closet. And what I really love about them is the cloud knit fabric that they use to make the pants look like khakis, but they stretch and are way slimmer for the fit and give you more without all the sacrificing of movement. Bird dogs use an anti-sweat and stink wicking fabric that keeps you cool all day long. So listen to me now. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL and enter promo code LockedOnNFL for a free Yeti style tumbler with your next order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL for a free Yeti style tumbler. You will not want to take off your bird dogs. I promise you. Odafe Oweh, boom or bust? That's the question. Because Keith, guys, I got the numbers pulled up here. And one thing about it, I don't want to sell this kid short. He has in the first 2 seasons, right? He has 11 sacks. So a lot of people like that's not a lot, right? Especially for a guy that was drafted, 31st overall, right? He was a first round pick. He's got solid production in terms of sacks. Now he's got 64 pressures, back-to-back years of 30 plus, of 30 or more pressures for the young man. He also has, I believe, 4 forced fumbles in his career as well and 17 QB hits. But when you draft a guy first round, I think the expectation, especially as an edge rush, I'll be honest, I'll be candid and open about it. I was lower on him than the rest of the draft community because I saw a big, athletic, physical kid who was so raw, extremely raw. And then I saw Azeez Ojulari, who we knew kind of slipped because of the knee injury. But I
Yeah.
saw a guy with him with power, speed to power, hand usage, counters, all that type of stuff. He knew how to win. He knew how to win one-on-one. It wasn't just, hey, man, I'm bigger, stronger, more physical than you. I actually have a rush plan, and we saw that, as he's gotten healthy with the New York Giants. So for me, like looking at this situation, I think Odafe, good run defender, like I said, the power and the physicality, all those things are there in terms of what he has. But it's time for him to boom so he's not viewed as a bust. Like,
Yeah.
and
So
that's the big thing.
yeah, I'm gonna ask you because I'm not extremely familiar with Odafe Oweh, right? I didn't evaluate him. I was still working in college football at the time. So you talked about how you were not as high on him as everybody else because he was raw. So DP, how does he boom? Right, like because it's like, okay, yeah, this is the year you have to boom. But I'm gonna ask you, how does he boom? What does he need to do to become a boom prospect? Because we're going on year 3, 4,
Three.
right? Yeah, we're going on year 3. We know the Baltimore Ravens is one of the best franchises in all of professional football. So if like, what does he need to do? Because if we haven't figured out now, then when is the light switch gonna turn on to where he figures it out and he's able to boom into being the first round prospect that he was?
Just from watching him, it's been months since I've watched NFL tape for the Ravens. I had them in my region over the last 2 years for TDN, especially last year. But the big thing for him to be a boom prospect is develop that rush plan, man. He's got to. He's so reliant on the physical too. I get it, the long arms, the power. He's strong. All of that is fine, but you got to know how to use it to win and get the edge, and not just get the edge, because he's got a quick first step too for a bigger rusher too. So be able to threaten that outside shoulder and then work your way back inside, right? So it's just when I watch him, I see a young man. The best way I'm going to tell you the best way I can describe him, guys: a bull in the china shop, disruptive, will just mess some stuff up. But he doesn't really he doesn't showcase the knowledge of what he's doing. He's just doing it, right? He's just playing football, but it's not a lot of technical refinement there. So it's like getting with somebody in the offseason as we getting into camp, get the hand counters down, have that rush plan, knowing that and understanding by that second step where that offensive lineman weak points are in his drop, right? Did he set too far vertical, upfield? And now you can kind of jab step and Euro step back inside, or is he trying to protect the inside shade or the inside leverage? And now you can long arm, club, and dip the shoulder and get around. And really, the big thing for him is, like I said, he's got 64 pressures. Pressures are sacks that you did not convert. I'm not telling you he's gonna have 64. He would have 64 sacks if he had the technical and mechanical refinement of this game. But what I'm saying is that's what pressures are. So let's convert some of these pressures into sacks. You're getting back there. You're creating that pressure already. Now let's finish the job and figure a way to win quickly and win quicker, rather. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just driving guys back, dislodge that tackle. Get that guy up off you. Get that tight end up off you. You know what I mean? And fight through and win quicker so that you can now get 8 to 10 sacks and get ready to get yourself paid in about 2 seasons.
Yeah, I'll say this, DP, that he doesn't have much time, right? When you think about it, because they've consistently drafted edge rushers, right? They haven't stopped. I mean, you're talking about obviously Odafe Oweh, right? But then you have who did they draft? They drafted our guy out of Michigan last year,
David Ojabo, who's healthy now too.
Yeah, who's healthy now? Who is another upside edge rusher type person? Then they went and got Tavius Robinson, right? Who I think will be a up edge rusher type football player. So I'll tell you this, they're not wasting any time, right? Like, it's like, look, this is the year to where they have to figure it out, because it seems like they've almost moved on to the next project. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't work out this year, don't worry about it. We'll invest our time to developing David Ojabo. And then David Ojabo doesn't work. We'll invest our time into figuring it out with Tavius Robinson. So, man, I think this was a big name to bring up, because a lot of people forget, right? You're talking about another high draft pick for the Baltimore Ravens. But DP, man, we're going to keep this thing moving. We're finally going to move out of Baltimore, right? We're going to go to another franchise, man. But where we're going to go is down to the South, man. We're going to Nashville, Tennessee, to those Tennessee Titans, who made a little noise the other day when they talked about possibly bringing in D-Hop, which D-Hop, I hope they dropping the bag off. If not, then I don't know about going there. But we're going to talk about Caleb Farley, man, cornerback, from Virginia Tech, long, length, had all the measurables that you would want, in a cornerback prospect, but just simply hasn't been able to see the field that much. So we want to get into him and talk about what he needs to do to be able to prolong his career and extend his career.
Nashville, Tennessee, Caleb Farley. Keith, I'm gonna tell you something, man. Guys, when this young man declared for the draft almost 3 years ago, I watched this tape. You talk about a guy that had everything: height, length, speed, athleticism, fluid. He was the most fluid corner in that class.
How much did he compare to Christian Gonzalez this year? That just came into my mind. I don't know why it just popped up.
A lot. Yeah. I think, and crazy enough, the negative or knock on him, outside of like Caleb dealing with injuries, was physical. I think it was the exact same like con that people had on. Was like, man, the concern I have is he's not the most physical. But man, when you turn on the tape of this kid at Virginia Tech, the movement skills, he ran routes for receivers. He's always in phase, in the hip pocket, transition. Like that clip, I think of Christian Gonzalez at Patriots OTA, where he's doing the drop and he's transitioning. And it's just like everything was so fluid for him to be 6'2" and doing that, guys. It was outstanding to watch. And it translated on the field as well in terms of everything. But it's the injuries. So far for the Tennessee Titans, this young man has played 164 snaps in 2 seasons. Yeah, 164. He played 104 last year. He played 60 as a rookie.
Yeah, and to translate that, I mean, you're talking about defensively, you played 70 snaps a game. So you're talking about he played 2.5 games over the past 2 years. But DP, I'm looking, I think it was a torn ACL 1 year, right? Which is hard to give to him. That's
Yeah.
basically cutting. And then he had a back injury, DP.
Hmm.
And, the
I think he
physicality.
had that in college, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
and that's why I tell people, like, you don't need your cornerbacks tackling, baby. Mike Ravens, stop trying to
There
make the
you
guy
go.
running through full speed walls, man. Okay, if you have a tackling Derrick Henry in practice, he doesn't need to be doing that. He's possibly your best cover corner on your team, and you want him to tackle. That's Caleb Farley's problem. He like, look, that's not what I do. That's not what my body is made of, baby. I run, I cover, I stick with the wide receivers. I use my
Right.
arm lift and these smooth hips to get the football. So I just had to get that out, DP. I thought about it. I
I
had to bring it up, Caleb Farley.
I see.
Definitely.
He had to make sure we remember the narrative that you don't got to tackle. You don't have to tackle as cornerbacks.
Just
Deion
get in the
Sanders got a
way.
gold
Just,
jacket.
just
He
get
ain't
in the
tackling.
way. Get in the way.
Yeah,
Because
just
whatever
get
play he injured his back on, I'm more than sure. You know what I'm saying? That the coaches rather have him out there than him tackling somebody and injuring
touche.
him. So
Touche.
that,
Not
that was
listen.
my 2 cents.
I need him to stay healthy, and Mike Vrabel needs him to stay healthy, man. They
Yeah,
drafted Roger McCreary last year, who played kind of inside and out, and his knowledge and his coverage ability, despite not having what sub 30-inch arms and being like 5'9", 5'10", it didn't matter because he still was able to compete and play at a pretty good level as a rookie. But you think about having him, Caleb Farley, play well and stay healthy. Now you got Caleb on one end on the outside. Your boy from LSU, Christian Fulton, is on the other side, and then Roger McCreary is in the slot at the nickel position. Now you got yourself three man-to-man corners that
plus
also
the
can play
six.
zone and have ball skills. So it's
Yeah.
like you need them. You need that to stay healthy, especially we don't. I mean, and I'm like, it don't even matter who's at quarterback, right? Ryan Tannehill could be at quarterback. He still isn't a high level starter or a high impact starter. So you still want to have your defense be not just play complementary, but be strong to help him in those games because that division got a lot tougher now, guys. You got Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud. You know they got touchdown Jesus and Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, who's won a playoff game. You know what I mean? He won his first playoff game. So, and they got Calvin Ridley now. So you need to have the pieces in place defensively to help whoever's at quarterback not to be in shootouts, right? And Caleb Farley could help that tremendously because then what does that do? Keith, I talked about when we have our meetings. Their defensive line has been legit. They can get after the quarterback with four. They don't have to send. They don't have to send linebackers, and that was last year without Harold Landry because he had the torn ACL. He's coming back. That defensive line can get to the quarterback. But if you got your secondary playing stout football, man, good luck to the quarterbacks because now you got to hold the ball. You can't get it out in quick enough time, and that defensive line is ferocious.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm optimistic. And like I said, I didn't watch much of Caleb Farley, but then also too, man, it's just been a lot of injuries in Tennessee. Period. Like this
Yeah.
was something that Mike Brady was trying to emphasize. So hopefully we do get a full Caleb Farley because you comparing him to Christian Gonzalez. I know that I had Christian Gonzalez at CB1 for me this year. And if you did that, then I'm excited to see what this guy is on the field. And like you say, the secondary and the back end, right? Because we still didn't talk about the safeties and Justin Simmons and Hooker, right? So you have the back end to really get some creative things done as a defensive coach. But like you said, injuries, man. And it's been the same thing with Christian Fulton. I was actually on a radio show yesterday, DP, with our guy, Teron Davenport, right? And he wanted to talk about defensive backs and everything. And we talked about what this secondary could be, but it was key pieces like Christian Fulton and it was key pieces like Caleb Farley. So Caleb Farley is another guy because I could see the Titans completely moving on from him and, maybe be a change of scenery, but it's just so tough, man, when you get to those first round picks and trying to decide when to move on, when to not. But we know that the talent that he is, and I'll tell you this, man, a torn ACL, having torn one, it's very hard to describe the mental that puts on you, right? As far as recovering and everything, because it's weird because it's a movement. 9 times out of 10, you tore your ACL in a movement that you've done 1,000 times. And now is you trusting your body to do that same movement and for your leg not to give out. You know what I'm saying? So it's the mental part of that. And then you're talking about a back injury. And neither one of those, DP, are injuries that you feel great about, right? Like how we just talked about with with people falling on top of people, 300 people, and he was like, hey, that's typical. But like a back injury of that substantial and then a torn ACL, that's two injuries that usually linger, right? And one thing I've always known with those type of big injuries is usually one thing, and then it goes to another, and then it goes to another, and then it goes to another, right? Like I tore my ACL in my knee, DP, and then you know what the next thing was? I started pulling my hamstring all the time in that same exact leg, right? And then now my Achilles is always tightening. You know what I'm saying? Every time I work out in that same leg. So it's you just hope that it doesn't do that, right? That it doesn't spiral. But we'll see, man. But like I said, I'm excited. And it's another guy, like you said, man. We talked about pressure. It's like, look, man, y'all invest, man. This offseason, invest into your wealth, into your well-being, into your body, because we want to see all these guys perform at a high level.
No, 100%, man. Like you said, I mean, you mentioned the safeties. I think you said Justin Simmons is Kevin Byard. You think about the Denver Broncos
Yeah,
safety.
yeah. My bad.
You good.
I'm
But
sorry.
Kevin Byard,
I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. I just knew it was a high level safety. I'm sorry. I got the name.
they have this defense. They just need that CB one. They got a safety one. They got a D tackle one. They got an edge one. They just need a quarterback one to really solidify them, man. But I'm excited to see, like I said, hopefully, I mean, we could see this big athletic, just physically gifted player get the reps that he needs in the NFL. You know what I'm saying, and make it through more than 2 games, make it through the whole season, and really watch his development, his growth, because all the physical tools and skills are there for him to be an absolute stud, for this Tennessee Titans defense. But again, he's got to get there. He's got to stay healthy so he can make the proper strides. But as always, guys, we appreciate y'all. Like I said, we checking the pressure, man. The pressure gauge is on, and we're gonna keep this series rolling as well, guys. We have more draft classes to kind of look at, see guys that, hey, you didn't live up to the hype. You kind of got to step up to the plate and hit a home run and kind of cross sport reference there. You know what I mean? I'm always with the other sports. You know what I mean? Drain the 3. I don't really care, but you got to do something, you know what I mean, in these next, in the 2023 season. But as always, guys, we tell you, go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it's available. Lord, we thank y'all so much for all the love and support, and thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Since you already know what you are, you're the every single dayers, man, and you're the family, and we love and appreciate y'all, guys. So listen, in terms of Twitter, you can find and follow Keith Sanchez at The Talent Code. I'm Damian Parson, DP_NFL. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.